You didn't arrive at this place this season.
How tough is this for Phil to swallow today?
I mean, it's difficult.
What do you think the issue is with this team?
That's a very stupid question. There's no issue. We're good. We just didn't win.
I think you got to look broad picture. This isn't about one man or one decision. I'm looking at everything about the Sixers.
The Celtics have eliminated the Sixers from the playoffs 14 times, the most by any team in NBA history. Boston with the quick sweep. Here's Joel Embiid.
I have not been playing up to my standards. So even tonight, just mad at myself. So just gotta, just frustrated. I don't care how it looks. I'm just playing basketball and, just getting back to myself. Just being a good, just playing basketball and just trying to dominate. Thank you.
Ben Simmons tweeting this: watching my team get swept hurt. I don't ever want to feel that way again. Stephen A., talk to me. Who's the most to blame for this?
I have to put it on Brett Brown, head coach for the Philadelphia 76ers, and I take no pleasure in saying that. He's going to be fired. I believe he's going to be fired. I think it's going to happen today, to be quite honest with you. Adrian Wojnarowski also is reporting that he doesn't have internal support. I think we all see the handwriting on the wall. He's a good man. He's knowledgeable about the game of basketball. But I do believe that there are times, Max, that there are certain coaches that show you their ideal assistants as opposed to head coaches who are leaders of men. When you think about somebody like a Doc Rivers, you never see an assistant coach. When you're looking at people like that, the Greg Popoviches of the world who served as an assistant coaches, obviously, the Nick Nurses who served as an assistant coach, along with Budenholzer and others, there's a difference between knowing the X's and O's and knowing how to galvanize the troops to maximize the potential that they may have before you. That is the issue with Brett Brown. I'm not questioning his basketball knowledge. I'm not questioning the fact that he earned the opportunity being an assistant in San Antonio for 9 years before landing in Philadelphia. The process, although I don't want to get started with that, certainly was not of his doing. The first 3 years where they were absolutely horrid and he didn't have a team to coach and he should not have been judged by that. And then the fourth year when he had Joel Embiid, he only had Joel Embiid for like 22 of the 82 games. So that really didn't count. Over the last 3 years, he won 50-plus games, 2 of those years, 63% of his game 1 year, 62% of the game is another year, and then this year they went 43-30. But I think the ultimate indictment is how the Sixers were so vastly different on the road compared to when they were at the Wells Fargo Center in Philadelphia. To have that level of talent and to be like 14 games under 500, that was just disgraceful in terms of their road record. The inability to galvanize the troops and to maximize their potential. Telling Ben Simmons that he needed to shoot more jump shots and he needed to work on it, but never truly seeing that development come game time. Not utilizing Joel Embiid as effectively as he should have. Jimmy Butler electing to walk away, the coach having no impact in terms of influencing him to stay on board as opposed to going to South Beach. J.J. Redick, that could be a management decision, make no mistake about it. But one of the things you highlighted, Max, was that J.J. Redick was a liability defensively. Well, I considered him a sniper, somebody that needed to be on that squad. And obviously, you know what, you could have had some influence over those guys staying as well. All of these things collectively, I think when you look at the potential coaches out there, the Mark Jacksons, the Ty Lues of the world, and others, there are better options for this collection of talent to make a decision ultimately about Embiid and Simmons and whether or not we should keep them together, which I think you should. There are better coaches to maximize that potential other than Brett Brown. That's why I believe that he should not be the head coach of the Philadelphia 76ers any longer. And I predict by the end of the day, tomorrow by 12 noon at the latest, the Sixers will be announcing that they have relieved Brett Brown of his duties as head coach of the Philadelphia 76ers.
Well, I respectfully disagree because I think you make a good argument. I think you could also make an argument that Elton Brand hasn't done a great job as a GM. I think you can also make an argument that Josh Harris and ownership by forcing Elton Brand to keep Brian Colangelo, some of his staff, instead of really empowering Elton Brand to do his job, is also, you could blame all these players. But if you're saying who's most to blame, the biggest factor here is that Ben Simmons didn't play. I mean, simple. If we're talking about a sweep, why did they get swept? Ben Simmons didn't play. Stephen A., you talked about this collection of talent. This is the island of misfit toys, right? Even when they constructed this roster. Now, I thought it was interesting. I like the fact that they got Horford in the offseason, considering they were losing Butler. They got back Richardson, who, if he's having a good shooting year, you think maybe he can shoot it well enough. Plus, he plays defense. Plus, he's cheaper, obviously. He's not going to be a max contract guy, obviously. And also still ascending, maybe. Oh, that's a nice replacement. I see what they're doing there. And Redick then being gone, his transition defense was terrible last year. But obviously he can shoot it. They need the shooting, but they're going with more of a defensive squad. In fact, just taking Horford away from Boston, who did a great job on Embiid in the playoffs, that's going to help them. And I had no idea that Horford looked like was a shot player basically at this point, or was incapable of playing the four and playing alongside Embiid. I had no idea about that. So I like this roster they put together, knowing it was flawed, knowing they couldn't shoot, but I see what they're doing. It didn't work out that way. Al Horford looks over the hill, and he can't play next to Embiid. Richardson's not giving them enough shooting, and neither is anyone else. So given that situation, this collection of talent, as you say, needs to have all their players available, particularly one of their two best players. Ben Simmons was the best defensive player in the world, in my opinion, this season. He also, you have to put him in the dunker spot in the playoffs and all this stuff. He's still a very valuable offensive piece. If you take from a collection of kind of misfit pieces, you take the most or second most important player off completely and you put him in against a very well coached and very talented team that can shoot, this is what happens.
Mm-hmm. Well, Max Kellerman, my retort would be this. If you recall a couple of years ago in the postseason, 2017-2018, the Boston Celtics took the Philadelphia 76ers out in 5 games. They were up 3-0 in that series. Ben Simmons was on the floor at that particular moment in time. And I highlighted how it was the first time in my career I saw a coach lose 3 straight playoff games. I saw Brett Brown admit that the team wasn't prepared for game 1. I saw the Celtics make a pivotal run in game 2, and he didn't make any substitutions, didn't make any adjustments, and didn't get Joel Embiid the ball. Game number 3, when you needed a 3-point shot, he had J.J. Redick inbounding the ball, and his argument was, we've worked on that play all year long. Well, duh, Brad Stevens knew that too, which is why he was prepared to defend against it, and they ultimately lost that series in 5 games. If you recall, you bring up Elton Brand. Elton Brand's only been on the job for 2 years. You got a situation where Brett Brown, this is his 7th complete season, and he's had 3 full years to show that after the first 4 years of a mulligan you threw in his direction, that some progress needed to be made. I think we all see the Sixers going in an opposite direction. And in terms of ownership, nobody's absolving them from accountability, because you got to find a way to keep a Jimmy Butler and keep this team intact. But last year when they lost the series to Kawhi in 7 games, there was a game at least or 2 pivotally where Joel Embiid didn't show up, and we were also looking at the coaches saying, you got to make sure that you got young, vibrant stars and you're holding them accountable, and they're doing the kind of things that you coach them to do instead of being 7-1, standing out in the 3-point line and not getting your big behind in the post and being a man amongst boys. These are all things we've periodically brought up about Brett Brown. And the fact of the matter is we have not seen elevation. We have not seen improvement. And there does come a time, it's not about you being a bad coach. It's about there needs to be a change. That's all.
Look, if you want to argue Brett Brown is not a great coach, I think he's a good coach. Is he not a great coach? I agree with that. If they had Ben Simmons, they wouldn't have been swept. That's the point. The sweep is because they didn't have Ben Simmons.
Okay, they would have lost in 5. My bad.
By the way, a lot to figure out, because the Sixers are committed to a guaranteed $437 million over the next 4 years to Embiid, Simmons, Horford, and Harris. We will leave it on that note, but we give you the latest when we come back on the altercation with Earl Thomas, fellas. Where could he be headed next, Stephen A? Wait till you hear the leading contender to potential